Y'all wanted a show that was going to make you feel good. Y'all wanted a show that at the end you could be like, see, it wasn't that bad. He and the baby made it. Now he can raise it and they can live happily ever after. This way, you never have to question what the games meant or who and if anyone will be punished. Anyone who appreciates realism in art appreciated this show and its ending. All of the videos saying this show was terrible or a flop must be a psyop for the CIA or something, because this show doesn't present the image of the United States as they would want us to believe. So, if you're a truth seeker, follow me. Hi everyone, welcome back to Face Philosophy. If you're new here, make yourself home and subscribe, honey. It's free at no cost to you. But if you would like to support my channel, I now offer memberships since I am newly monetized. So hit that up if you like. You get some exclusive perks for being a member, but you can also support my page via the description of this video, via Cash App, because they be taking a percentage of the supers. Okay. So yes, if you would like to support me, no pressure. I would appreciate anything that you can send, and let's get into this video. This show is a must watch if you want to understand the society we live in and why the platitudes of meritocracy and rugged individualism were always a lie. As a society, it's time we get more honest about the impact our social systems have on our relationships with others and with ourselves. As we navigate systems of oppression meant to extract every ounce of our life force in order to sustain the wealth of a few, we must discuss the psychological degradation and systematic justification that occurs as we submit to our own demise. All seasons of this show pull on my heartstrings, but this final season hit a little different. As a recent graduate struggling in a system that was never built for me to succeed, I found watching Squid Games this time around to be very surreal, as it mirrored my own feelings of hopelessness and grief. With 2 degrees in psychology, this was supposed to be my season of enjoying the fruits of my labor. Instead, I'm being met with a job market that is oversaturated, rigged, and biased. Sounds familiar, right? In every show or film I watch, I find myself analyzing the psychological context of each character or the media's frame of reference in general as a system and how it engages with our current understanding of psychology. Squid Game is a psychological fiction horror dystopian TV show that personifies our current world via a game show whose viewers are the wealthiest of the world, aka the VIPs. The game show is a personification of our current system due to its reliance on exploiting our natural instincts, advantages and disadvantages, as well as our human psychology. Today, I'll be breaking down psychological warfare that takes place in season 3 of Squid Game and how it relates to our current world. So I've already done an analysis of Squid Game season 2. Go check that out if you have not already. This analysis will have spoilers, so please watch the show and come back here to dive deeper into the plot. Some of the things I will discuss here will build off the foundation I set in my previous video. I won't be explaining the plot that deeply, so like I said, go watch the show to understand and be able to get the most out of this video. And if you didn't or don't want to watch the show, no worries, you can still participate. Before we get into my perspective, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are and how you feel the final season played out. I saw some people felt this season was terrible, but I would have to disagree with that. Let's talk about why. Teamwork makes the dream work. Everyone was about their own self-interest in the Squid Game, but the structure of the games and the environment itself forced the players to work together, or they ultimately decided to work together to increase their chances of survival. This is inherent to the human species and an important part of our evolutionary success. I enjoyed the show's emphasis on this aspect of human nature this season. During the hide and seek game, I thought it was interesting how the staff was not transparent about them needing 3 players with different shapes to open the exit doors. Although the system seeks to exploit the rugged individualism ingrained into the players, some players were more empathetic and community-oriented than others. I will also say this was heavily influenced by gender roles, but I don't feel like explaining all that. If you get it, you get it. Overall, this aspect of the show revealed one of the most prevalent aspects of human psychology: our need for social support, acceptance, and connection. Social experiment theory. At first, I thought the games in Squid Game were a social experiment to see how far humans would go in hopes of riches and stability. And I don't think that is completely wrong, but I think it's bigger than a social experiment, as this season displays how this game is widespread and essentially unstoppable. An experiment will inevitably have an end in order to complete the collection of results. But in this case, there was no data being collected, no objective outside of making money and providing entertainment to the VIPs. This final season reveals how this game has been cycling new leaders to carry out the game as well as recruiters. This game is bigger than South Korea. As we see at the end of the show, there is a version of the game occurring in America. The ringleader of the games in South Korea may have had a change of heart as we see him personally take the clothes and the remaining wealth of player 456 to his daughter in LA. I don't think the games will end here though, because it's a lifestyle and a social system created by us and for us. This is why I love psychology, because it can explain almost every human creation in our world. Our psychology is naturally embedded in all that we create, because the creation is a reflection of the creator's subjective mind. Capitalism is modeled after our human psychology, our selfishness and tendency to compete, all manifest in social systems today. I also try to think, if the system was something different, would humans be any different? Like, are we just shaped by capitalism and this shit is not innate in us? But then I'm like, we created capitalism. So it's like the chicken or the egg argument. Whoever said let's hoard resources and charge for access first, fuck you. Respectfully, well, not even disrespectfully, fuck you. What drives the good in us? In the second season, player 456 played into the influence of the leader by waging a retaliation within the game, sort of like a civil rights movement. I think the overall character arc of the main player, 456, was to question what his role was in the game and also in life. He prioritized gambling over his family and originally participated in the games to relieve himself of debt. Yet these games wouldn't resolve his issue, only intensify it. He had a gambling addiction similar to many of the players in the game, but he put himself back in an environment that fed off his addiction and the hero complex he created psychologically to shield him from the failure he was as a father. In simple terms, instead of being with his family in America when he had the chance, he went back into the game, further neglecting his family and feeding his gambling addiction. In the end, he sacrifices himself for the baby, with his final line being, "Humans are martyrs." This was sweet, I guess, but like I said before, everything we do as humans has something to do with our self-interest. He sacrificed himself because he likely wouldn't have been able to live with himself if he unalived the baby and left with the money. He was down and out and depressed when he didn't have a goal or anyone to protect. Once he promised to look after that baby, his purpose was reignited. He ended his life for someone else's daughter, but not his own. I guess it paid off for him in the end, since the ringleader cared enough to give his belongings to his daughter. All in all, our self-interest drives the good in us. Nothing more, nothing less. When God doesn't respond. Player 144 was a self-acclaimed shaman and prophet with the ability to speak to spirits. Isn't this also familiar? In IRL, we have prophets, preachers, and spiritualists who prey on the existential discomfort that comes from existence without knowing why. Interestingly enough, I used to be one of those people. I was a tarot reader and a spiritualist for a while, and I genuinely believed in what I was doing. Eventually, I couldn't reconcile the missing data points of how astrology and manifestation was supposed to work. I had to accept that I could not interpret answers for someone's life through a deck of cards, not even for myself. The religious businesses profit off human insecurity and fear. At the end of the day, your home church is a business, and your praise and worship is a concert and an elaborate performance. Your pastor is a performer and relies on charisma and public speaking skills to woo crowds and evoke emotion. Catching the Holy Spirit is a reaction that you would have at any other concert, because music and evocative language target specific neurotransmitters and brain systems. Specifically, dopamine and serotonin are involved. Reward systems and brain structures like the frontal lobe, which aids in thinking, planning, and decision-making, show reduced reduced activity when in the trance of the Holy Spirit. Basically, you're not thinking, you're just feeling. And later you attribute those feelings to a higher power because you don't understand your brain. Yet, I do think that the stories told through tarot cards or other religious books can still assist in enlightenment because some give sound advice for the universal issues we experience while existing. I believe now that they are not meant to provide answers, but to set a blueprint to guide self-discovery. I still use my tarot cards to this day, but my attachment and understanding is different. As I believe in destiny, because we all know where we're headed, I believe nothing happens for no reason, and even the smallest action or experience is painting a stroke on the canvas of our lives. Cost-benefit analysis. This show directly reflects how human psychology can maladapt in environments that value overproduction over quality and self-destruction over self-preservation. Many of the players did outweigh their desire to be alive. Humans participate in cost-benefit analysis every day of our lives, from simple decisions like what to eat and more important decisions like career. When under duress, it is very difficult for us to make sound decisions in the fight or flight response triggered by the release of cortisol. Stress even influences how perceived losses or gains are evaluated. Reward processing can alter during stressful situations, and rewards can seem more salient in specific learning environments. This is important to the games because every element influences the player's psychology, specifically the large bank of money that players can see daily as it fills with their reward. Also, before the final game, they are given dress clothes and are able to engage in fine dining before casting their votes. This gives players the incentive to keep playing. I almost forgot voting. I noticed how the staff emphasized during their introduction and conclusion that the experience is a democracy and that the games are continued based on their democratic vote. In my previous video, I talked about how the voting system in the TV show reflected the voting system in America. The color systems, red and blue, also mirrored the Republican and Democratic Party in America. I study psychology. I am not very versed in politics, but this led me to look up the Southern Korean government and what system they function under. Basically, I came to the conclusion that they have a similar government system that is highly capitalistic. Similar to the US, there is a large wealth gap, but a smaller economy. This is poverty in South Korea, and this is poverty in the US. It should be noted that homelessness and economic stratification are visibly lower in South Korea than in the US due to different welfare policies. We gamble every day. Decisions are a big part of our lives, and we all hope our decisions pay off. We gamble every day. We trade our energy and mental resources for paper or digital currency to pay for our essential needs. We are all selling our bodies in some way. We gamble with our limited time here and prioritize work over our desires and fulfillment at times. Gambling with our lives is an essential part of living. We could call living life an addiction because even in the most heinous and ridiculous situations, many of us wake up and decide to do it all over again without even knowing why. We created capitalism, we created this system, and we're still playing its game. This has been Faith's Philosophy. Subscribe for more videos.